right, this is going to be kind of a rant video, but we're going to talk about my experience this season getting to Infinite. We're going to talk about the really flawed MMR system in Marvel Snap. We're going to talk about bots. I feel like it's very controversial what's going on with bots. We're going to talk about the deck that I used to get to Infinite. We're going to talk about the meta. And we're also going to talk about the importance of Nimrod and my newfound hatred of Leech. I've actually kind of been on the fence on Leech, and something happened last night that really made me just hate Leech. All right, let's talk about my experience on getting to Infinite now. And this is going to lead into why I think the MMR system is a little bit busted, specifically for players that have the ability to get to 100 and intentionally tank their MMR. Now, this season was different than other seasons, mostly because they changed the way that they injected cubes into the system. The way that it worked before is that when you hit level 80, you were automatically boosted to 81. And so you didn't have to earn those 10 cubes. The way it works now is that you go to 80 and you go to 85. And this is true of hitting rank 20, rank 30, all of them, right? Instead of going to like 41, you go to 45. So the number of cubes required to go from 70 to Infinite went from 280 cubes down to 200 cubes. So this is my experience with hitting Infinite for the last 4 seasons. 4 seasons ago, it was a grind fest. This is when I just started playing Snap seriously, and I think I had to go all the way from 30 to Infinite, and it was almost 1,700 games played to hit Infinite. And 3 seasons ago, I was able to do it in over 1,200 games. And then last season, I was able to do it in 437 games, which is reflected right here. I was basically able to hit Infinite in 437 games. And then this season was 892 games. And you're saying, Trevor, what happened? Why was last season much easier? And I actually needed to have more cubes. I was able to go through 280 cubes in 437 games versus this season, it was 892 games for 200 cubes. What changed? Did you become a worse player? Did you play the wrong decks? What happened? Because truthfully, the meta is largely the same, and I used largely the same deck to get Infinite last season and this season. What changed? And this has to do with one of the main benefits and perks of getting to Infinite and how it can be abused. So a lot of people say, why do you want to hit Infinite? Well, let's talk about that. There's a couple reasons to hit Infinite, but really it is for bragging rights. When you hit level 90, you get 500 gold. When you hit Infinite, you just get a fancy card back or some sort of cosmetic. There's no progression boost by hitting Infinite. There's no rewards. But the main thing that happens when you hit Infinite is that once you've gone into Infinite, you cannot drop below level 100. And so this allows me to play other decks and do things that I normally wouldn't do when I'm trying to rank up. Because when I'm trying to rank up, when I start trying to get super creative and brew decks, until I get comfortable with the deck, I typically give away a lot of cubes, and I find that to be frustrating. So when I get to Infinite, I can try new things. One of the other things that I want to do, because I've got a gotta collect them all mentality, is I've got this obsession, if you will, to get all of my cards to the Infinite border. Now, that may not be important to you, but for me, and I've got this gotta collect them all collector mentality. And the other thing too is that I like to play cards just to see if there's something I'm missing. Like, what is the hype around this card, or what am I missing in this card? Why is Orca so bad? Why is Baron Mordo underused? So what I do when I typically hit Infinite is for two reasons. I want to try new decks, new cards, but I also want to get boosters, because what I'm missing to upgrade Luke Cage to Infinite is to get booster. And so I play off-meta decks with Groot and Quake and Crystal and cards that don't get played a lot, just to find out if they're good, but also to farm boosters. And so that is what happened. And this is a thing. If I look right here on my season before, I stayed around 100. I didn't go much higher than 100. And I know for a fact on the last day of the season, I played a lot of games where I was playing off-meta decks, bad cards, bad decks, trying to win. But what was happening is my MMR was tanking. Now, some people do this on purpose, and we're going to talk about that. So what happened on that season right there is that I had an artificially low MMR. And because I had this low MMR, because I was playing bad decks, bad cards, trying to get boosters, because I had no risk, because I couldn't drop below 100. And this is the advantage to hitting Infinite. And I'm going to say that it's actually an unfair advantage. Then my MMR was so bad that when I played the first couple games of the season, I was able to hit Infinite in a relatively short amount of time. That did not happen this season. I ended the season at 128. I was not booster farming. I was playing good decks. I was maintaining my rank, 130, 128, and I ended the season at 128. When I started the season, I did not have an artificially tanked MMR. This season, my matches were against largely real players. I played a ton of streamers. I played a lot of Infinite players, and I found the experience to be generally rewarding in that I feel like I was playing good players. Like I felt like I earned my rank because I wasn't artificially low. Now, there is a way of intentionally tanking your MMR, and this actually is a thing. And this was a tweet sent to me by Loaded Diapers. I'm an Infinite player who facing lose bots. Their MMR was so low that they get lose bots, and we're going to talk about bots. Facing lose bots after Agatha tanking my MMR. This bot, so he's talking about having such a low MMR that he started encountering bots where the purpose of those bots was to lose. Like bots designed intentionally to lose. This bot lost by playing Hobgoblin into a closed off lane. I was trying to lose this match and couldn't lose, trying to lose. And you can see right here, this lane was full. The AI lose bot placed Hobgoblin right here and intentionally lost the match. He was trying to lose, but the AI was trying to lose harder and actually successfully gave him 8 cubes. So this is a problem. And the reason why this is a problem is that players that are not Infinite don't get to do this. They have to play normally. They have to have normal matchmaking. They have to play against other players that maybe intentionally tanked the MMR and they have all the cards in the game. They start the new season and they have all of the Shuri and the Galactus and the Thanos, and they get paired up against everyone because they have an artificially low MMR. Where, like myself, this season, I had a correct MMR, and most of my matches were against meta deck. I wasn't playing against bad players. I wasn't playing against bad bots. So why do we have bots, and how do you know if you're playing against bots? Because I feel like this is a big source of contention with players. I've seen multiple posts talking about the key to climbing in Marvel Snap is taking bots for 8 cubes and use the Google Docs sheet to identify them. I've probably played 50 games today, and I've played a single bot on that list. And then this is the point. Not everyone's climb is even close to equal. So there is a list of bots, and I will link this in the description, and ignore what it says here, real player, LSTM, human, Marvel, whatever. These players are bots. Now, it's true, some people may have adopted these names and changed their name to bots, but if you go through this list, you're going to find out who's a bot. The other way of identifying bots has to do with the split system. The split system, bots will have splits that are impossible. The way the split system works is that the first time you split the card, the background changes. After you split the card the second and the third time, you always have a changed background, but you also get a particle effect. After the fourth split, you get the rare chance of having inkified, and then you always have a particle effect. The backgrounds get more rare, and then you get the situation is this: you can't have a particle effect with an original background, and you also can't have an inkified or gold background without a particle effect. So I'm going to show you some cards that bots have that players simply cannot. This is a Mr. Sinister. This is from a bot. It has a normal background, but it has a particle effect. And so you can identify if you're playing against a bot. And I'm going to go into my collection right here. And I'm going to show you my card that I've split a bunch of times. I'm going to show you some situations where these splits just cannot exist. So right here is the normal background, right? And what I'm saying is you can't have particle effects like these swirlies and a normal background. I've got a foil background. So if you see a bot card where it has particle effects like these swirlies, but it has a normal background, it's a bot. The other situation where that you can have a bot is if they have a rare inkified background or the rare gold background, but no particle effects. That's how you know if you're playing a bot. Now, why are there bots in the game? Because the game wants to inject cubes into the system. And I see people say, well, the win rate is 50%. It is not 50%. In fact, bots are injecting cubes into the system. And if you look at right here, and this is from season 10 right here, you see the win percentage of all the cards. If it was 50%, then half the cards would have a 50% win rate and half the cards would have a less than 50. Well, that's not true. If we look at this, only like the bottom 10 cards have a lower than 50% win rate. I think that bots are second dinner's way of injecting cues to the system, and the bots are actually targeting some sort of win-loss rate closer to 53, 54, 55%. Without doing some exact math. When you play Marvel Snap, you have above a 50% win rate because of bots. So this is not fair. Why do we have bots? Well, because they're trying to inject cubes in the system. Maybe bots is a good system, in the earlier ranks, between 10 and 30. But I don't really understand why there are so many bots. I feel like one of the main reasons why Second Dinner can justify having bots is so that we can have improved matchmaking. I'm not really sure why this game needs to have regions like North America, West and East. It doesn't feel like this is a lag heavy game. And why can't they just open up all the regions so that we have matchmaking against everyone and correct MMRs? That would largely eliminate the need for bots if they just opened up the regions. And I just don't want to play against bots. I don't think it's fun to play against bots. And I do know that there is a small need for bots, from like level 10 to 20 or 30 or whatever, but it just doesn't seem like fun. I don't enjoy playing bots. I don't enjoy winning against bots. And it doesn't feel like I've earned anything when I actually get cubes from a bot. And I think a system without bots, a system without this busted MMR, that they need to fix. And the thing is that they may fix the MMR system and we're just never going to know. Okay, let's talk about the deck list that I used to get to Infinite. And I used a lot of different decks. I used Galactus decks. I used Thanos Lockjaw decks. I used Nimrod decks. But the final deck that it got me to Infinite was a Shuri Zero deck. I tried a bunch of Shuri Zero builds. I really, really like this build right here because it has not only armor, but it has Cosmo. Cosmo was vital in putting on a Lockjaw lane. Also, Leech is everywhere. This deck can win when leeched because it has cards like Red Skull. I think if you want to climb, you need to have cards in your deck that don't care about being leeched. Red Skull does not care about being leeched. Destroyer does not care about being leeched. Infinite does not care about being leeched. Those are important cards in this current meta, and so is Cosmo. Now, I do think that the meta is a little bit stale, and the developers have talked about that. Thanos and Shuri decks have been more dominant than we would like for the past few weeks. The patch we're releasing later this month has significant changing, targeting both decks. And the thing is that they can't do it right now because they're having some sort of tech issues. We have balance updates in the works. We ran into some issues with our ability to over-the-air them in the past few weeks. This happens every meta, though. Some folks love it and some hate it. We have to find the right cadence to drop balance updates that isn't too frequent for most players, but keeps the more engaged players on their toes. Now, they could balance those two decks, and I don't know what they're going to do, and we'll see. It may just lead to a situation where another deck becomes dominant. You know, they tone back Shuri Red Skull, they tone back Thanos Lockjaw, and maybe it'll be the same thing. I wanted to talk about Leech and more specifically and why my position on Leech has changed. I have been kind of in the camp where maybe Leech just needs some sort of an adjustment so that he can still do his intended purpose, which is to go off on turn 5 and shut down decks that are dependent on dropping a lot of cards on turn 6. I'm not sure if Leech is the problem or if the problem is Leech being everywhere and going off for little to no cost in a Thanos Lockjaw deck, going off sometimes on turn 3, sometimes on turn 4. And I was like, well, maybe they just need to change the way Leech works and so on and so on. But I have grown to absolutely despise Leech. And I just want to just share my experience. And they need to do something, and I don't know what that is. And I don't always agree with them just obliterating cards into nothing. But I hit Infinite yesterday, and last night I was on a mission to find and build the best Nimrod deck. And this was a deck list that was suggested to me that runs Nimrod. And I was excited about this build. But after playing the build, I was like, I wonder if Black Panther is better in this build. Like, is Nimrod really adding anything at all that Black Panther can't do a million times better? Well, maybe Nimrod won't get Shang-Chi'd the way Black Panther will. And I was just like, this was like an actual question. Can I take Nimrod out of this deck and add Black Panther? And is Nimrod just a bad version of Black Panther in this deck? And I was just casually playing the game, watching TV, lying on my bed, and I got leeched after leech after leech after leech. And I was like, why am I playing this game? Like, what is going on? All I want to find out is if Nimrod is not as good as Black Panther. And I couldn't do anything at all. I just got leeched like 4 or 5 games in a row. And I was like, why am I even trying? It was so annoying. It was so annoying. And to sum it up, my opponents spending 4 turns setting up brilliant win, me playing Leech. Yeah, I felt like I was literally wasting my time for 4 or 5 rounds. and then just getting Leech to retreat. And I was just trying to identify. I wasn't even able to do anything with Nimrod and Black Panther, specifically when I was getting leeched on turn 4. So the card is frustrating in the same way that Leader was frustrating to play against. And I do think that the game is in a better place without Leader. And I am starting to think that maybe the game would be in a better place without this current version of Leech. What do you think? Let me know what you think in the comment section. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Keep on gaming. Bye for now.